Hello friends, and welcome. Today I will take you to the heart of the Middle Ages, to a mysterious and ancient land, Iran. But I will not speak of kings, shahs, or great wars. The heroes of our story today are the ordinary people of that vast empire. The merchants in the bazaar, the peasants working the land, the men and women deciding the fate of their own neighborhoods. How did a medieval Iranian city function, and why is that magnificent spirit of solidarity almost non-existent today? Let us open the dusty pages of history and discover the story of this nearly forgotten structure together. The philosophers of the medieval Islamic world described the ideal society as a hierarchy. Great thinkers like Nasir al-Din Tusi divided society into four main classes: the men of the pen, scholars; the men of the sword, soldiers; merchants and artisans; and at the bottom, the peasants. This might have been a theoretical classification, but in reality, it was the very essence of Iranian society. In these lands, the individual was nothing on their own. Their existence and security derived entirely from the group they belonged to. What were these groups? First and foremost, there were two fundamental structures that still exist in some form today: tribes and villages. The tribes were powerful, self-governing communities under their own khans and elders. Throughout Iranian history, many dynasties rose to power on the backs of these tribes. The Seljuks, the Safavids, the Qajars, all gained strength through tribal support, yet all faced the challenge of controlling that very power. When the state was strong, it appointed and controlled the tribal chiefs. But when the state weakened, these chiefs became virtually petty kings. Now let us turn to the villages. Rural Iran was like a collection of small, self-contained republics. Each village paid its taxes collectively and communicated with the state through its headman, the Kadkuda. Water was shared, and a portion of the harvest was set aside for the village blacksmith, barber, and others. However, from the 9th century onward, as central authority weakened and lands were granted to military commanders, these autonomous villages came under increasing pressure. The Mongol invasion further eroded this order. The Qajar period saw them crushed under the weight of landed aristocrats. And finally, in the 20th century, the wave of centralization largely destroyed them. What about the cities? Imagine medieval Isfahan or Shiraz. The cities were divided into quarters, each a self-contained world with its own mosque, bathhouse, and even walls. These quarters were led by Kadkudas, trustworthy and respected men chosen by the people. Their duty was to protect the quarter's inhabitants from the governor's tyranny, to arrange the billeting of soldiers, and to distribute taxes fairly. Above them stood the Kalantar. He was a kind of mayor, the voice of the people to the king and their defender against the governor. This system was the most concrete example of popular participation in governance. Another vital element of the cities was the bazaar and the guilds. In medieval Iran, craftsmen were not merely sellers of goods, they were powerful brotherhoods. The guilds had their own courts. The elders, or Rish Sefid, would gather, settle disputes among members, and punish those who cheated. Every guild had a headman, a Kadkuda, who collected the guild's taxes and acted as a bridge to the state. Interestingly, unlike in medieval Europe, Iranian guilds had few regulations restricting competition. However, in some guilds in Isfahan, such as the shoemakers, there was a system called Haqqi Bunicha. This meant that the right to practice a craft was a transferable property. A master could only leave the trade by selling this right to someone else. The guilds were concerned not only with economics but also with morality. The futuwar, chivalry, organizations that existed throughout history were intertwined with the guilds. These ayar, or champions, swore to protect the weak and defend the oppressed. Though these groups occasionally degenerated into lawless bands, at their core, they were the justice and protection mechanism of the Iranian city. Even the more recent Lahuti or Dashti associations were a continuation of this tradition. Sometimes, violent conflicts broke out among these various groups. The most famous were the Haidari and Nimati rivalries that emerged during the Safavid period. These two factions, locked in an ancient feud, would turn entire cities upside down, attacking each other's processions during festivals and causing bloody clashes between quarters. This was, in fact, a testament to how powerful neighborhood belonging and group loyalty could be. So how did this magnificent network of solidarity, this thousand-year-old tradition, collapse? It all began in the 19th century, with Iran's encounter with the West. Realizing Europe's military and technological superiority, Iran felt compelled to create a centralized army and reorganize the country. This brought centralization. Iran's local powers, tribal chiefs, neighborhood kadkudas, autonomous villages, all lost ground to this new, powerful central government. This change also gave birth to a new intellectual movement in Iran, the constitutional movement. Intellectuals, religious leaders, guildsmen and merchants united to demand a voice in this new era. Before the constitutional revolution of 1906, the guilds organized themselves as Anjumani Asnaf and became a major political force. However, this movement was soon suppressed due to foreign intervention. Later, during the reign of Reza Shah, a full storm of modernization and centralization swept through the country. Reza Shah wanted to rapidly westernize Iran, and to achieve this, he ruthlessly suppressed every form of local organization, tribes, and even the guilds. To him, these old structures were obstacles to progress. The ancient neighborhood culture gave way to government offices, schools, and barracks. The people's tradition of self-governance was replaced by the habit of being governed by the state. Conclusion: and today, this rapid change brought many innovations to Iran but also exacted a heavy price. People lost the powerful group bonds that had provided them with security and identity for centuries. There was no longer the protective kadkuda of the quarter, the elders' council of the guild, or the solidarity network of the village. The people were left face to face with a vast and alien bureaucracy. As the author of the article states, formerly the citizen, even though they had little direct contact with the government, still had an opportunity for the exercise of civic virtues through the various corporations. With the dissolution of the corporate structure of society, this also ceased to be the case, and the citizen does not yet feel in place of the old group responsibility and individual responsibility. Perhaps the social quests taking place in Iran today are nothing more than a search for a new sense of belonging and social purpose to replace this dissolved ancient structure. History shows that Iran always resisted.